Welcome to the Veterinary Project Podcast, episode 099.
Welcome to the show created by vets featuring absolutely no pets. This is the Veterinary Project Podcast, hosted by Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Light. Our resident veterinarians have swapped out their stethoscopes in favor of microphones to bring you the Veterinary Project Podcast, a show focused on real conversations, aimed to connect this amazing profession full of remarkable people. Through the sharing of collective stories and wisdom, and connecting over the many unique challenges we face, we invite you to join our community of veterinary professionals leading intentional lives. And now, here are the hosts of the Veterinary Project Podcast, Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Light.
Welcome back. You know it. Dr. Michael Bugg, Dr. Jonathan Light, the Veterinary Project Podcast. We've been through that 90 some times now. How is it going, Dr. Bugg?
It is going well, Jonathan. It's going well. It's crazy. It might even be 100 times by this episode coming out. Who knows?
I have no idea. We got lots in the hopper. Exciting times for the Veterinary Project Podcast. But even more exciting is exciting times in the Bug household. What is shaking in the world of Mike and Rosalie?
Okay, well, so yeah, we're expecting another kid. So that is exciting and scary. I mean, it's way more exciting than scary. Only scary in the sense of, I find you always look at people that have more kids than you and wonder, how do they do it? You know, one is busy. You look at people with 2 and 3 and you're like, how? And then the answer is, we'll figure it out. But yeah, come mid-October 2022, there will be another critter under the roof.
My friend, you and Rosalie are going to do fantastic. And number 2, again, personal opinion, N of 1 is much easier than number 1. They figure it out. They're left to the wolves. They get it. They don't die. And it is going to be fun. I'm quite excited for you guys.
I'm looking forward to it. We're not finding out boy or girl on this one, so it'll be a full-on surprise.
I wondered what you guys were going to do with that. Yeah. So are you prepping for the room or doing any of that? Or are you going to wait last minute and color scheme?
Well, yeah, I guess we're not prepping the room. I don't know. I guess we're winging it at this point. So I mean, we're set up. We have all the stuff from Riley. If it happens to be a boy, I'm sure we'll buy some blue stuff somewhere, but I don't know. Other than that, we're all set.
So with October delivery, how much of spread is there going to be between Riley and little baby Michael number 2?
There'll be 3 years. So she was September. So 3 years, 1 month.
Oh man, she's going to be a big sister. She'll take it over. You guys will be rocking and rolling.
She's already excited about it. Like,
is she?
Oh yeah. So it'll be fun to see how that all plays out.
Oh, it's part of the journey, dude. Well, congratulations on behalf of our vast number of listeners that are listening right now. Congratulations as well, too. Let the chirping begin.
Yeah, it'll be good. I'm excited.
Darn right. Well, today is an exciting conversation as well. 2 friends and colleagues that I've wanted to have on before or in as quickly as we could. And that is both Dr. Sean Neate and Leilani Mustillo is what I was asked to pronounce her great Italian name.
For the listeners, you got to go watch that on YouTube because Jonathan really got into that last name.
Got to enjoy a great Italian name. Now, Leilani and Sean are both CEO and CFO, Chief Veterinary Officer, so not CFO, of Animal Healthlink. Before we get into this conversation, do want to just let everybody know that Mosaic Veterinary Partners, of which I am a partner in, is also an investor in Animal Healthlink. So therefore, I do have a vested interest in acknowledging that I want this company to succeed, and I have a personal place to make that happen as well, too, as an investor in the company. So with that aside, and that to the side, really excited still to have Leilani and Sean on, even more to talk about the great work they're doing within the veterinary industry. Mike, you and I talk about this nonstop right now in terms of the problems in the industry and possible solutions, and or just looking at alternatives to negativity that seems to be, persistent. And Sean and Leilani, as we're going to get into this conversation, talk about that, how they came together, and what they're doing to try and address our current situation. Would you not agree?
Yeah, it was neat hearing their background stories, and how they weaved through that and then came together, saw the challenges, but then saw some solutions and took action on it.
That's right. So let's move forward. First with bios so that we all get to know both Leilani and Sean. Leilani, as CEO, was and is born and raised Albertan, who completed the Olds College Animal Health Technology program in 2009. And since graduating, she has worked in specialty and emergency medicine in both nursing and management roles. Since 2015, she has been an instructor in Olds College Animal Health Department. As an advocate for RVT advancement, she has a love for mentoring and training those who are new to emergency and critical care medicine, with her favorite topic being, of course, emergency triage. Meanwhile, Sean, as Chief Veterinary Officer, grew up in Alberta and originally obtained a Bachelor of Commerce from the University of Alberta, but switched careers and graduated from the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Calgary. After graduation, Sean completed a rotating small animal internship at a referral institution in Calgary. After spending several years in referral and emergency medicine, he moved to family practice. Sean is currently a practicing partner in a group of veterinary hospitals in Calgary, and Sean enjoys a mixture of clinical cases and leading teams in growing their practices. Please enjoy a wide-ranging conversation with Dr. Sean Neate, Leilani Mustillo, and Dr. Michael Bug. Sean and Leilani, thank you very much for joining Mike and I on the Veterinary Project podcast. It's a pleasure to have the both of you guys on. Both of you I've known in different ways for a number of years now. And with the growth of AHL and what you guys are doing in the industry, this absolutely made sense to have you come on. So thank you very much, first of all, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We're both really excited to be here.
Yeah.
Yes. And, face to face, speaking of that, we got to get together on Saturday night at the ABVMA Leadership Conference and, really just catch up. Welcome to post-COVID and seeing people face to face. And it's great, learning about family, what's happening in businesses, otherwise, just a pleasure. So look forward to seeing where our conversation goes this afternoon.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. So before we get started on all things AHL, I think really nice for our listeners to get a perspective on who you are as individuals. Tell us a little bit about what got you to this stage in your careers, which have, for both of you, really evolved over time, and it's been a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, so I'm an RVT by trade, so graduated in 2009 from Olds College. And then I went on to emergency and critical care medicine, where really is my first love. I worked in GP for a few months, and I kept, every time a pet would come in, I'd be like, do you ever see anything like a gunshot wound or dog hit by a car? And that vet was like, I think maybe you belong in emergency medicine. So went on to emergency medicine and was there for quite some time in various roles. Started off on the floor, obviously, then moved up to RVT supervisor, and then I was medical care manager for a few years as well. And then had 3 babies and needed to have a little bit of a change career wise, but definitely wanted to stay in vet med. So do you want to tell a little bit here?
Yeah, so as you guys know, I'm a veterinarian by trade, and I have previous life in the corporate world as well, which kind of has lent a lot of background into the startup side as well, which has been now we can see it's been very useful. But when I was a student and an intern, that's where I had actually met Leilani 8-9 years ago now. And at the referral center that we both worked at. And so I started off my career in emergency and referral medicine, worked in emergency for several years after that as well. Similar boat, started having kids and family, and had to make some priorities straight in terms of hours of work, and so made the shift over into general practice I've been lucky enough to find some great partners, and I'm a partner in a group of practices, general practice here in Calgary as well. So I kind of have a bit of a variety of interests in veterinary medicine, and then obviously when Leilani and I kind of brainstormed this was this added to that repertoire.
Well, let's get into that a little bit, because there is a good little story here, which I actually didn't know about until Saturday night, to the genesis of the conversation of the two coming together. Now, Sean, knowing you since being a student at the care center, Leilani, we worked together at the care center. Leilani, in our pre-recording, you made mention of, I have 3 kids. It is expensive even for child daycare, and this is something we hear in the veterinary space a lot. 3 children, daycare, can I even afford to do that, let alone continue in my career as it goes? And at that point, you had said, I need to do something different. Tell us a little bit about what that looked like, and basically the two of you coming together, because I think it's a good one.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, like you said, I was, and like Sean said too, you know, trying to prioritize family life and this career that I love. Like I truly love it, and it's something that I'm going to be in for the rest of my life, and really felt like I found my calling. So when I got to the point where I don't know if I can continue with, you know, how I was working before, I was honestly devastated, like heartbroken. And I didn't want to become another statistic, because I had seen so many veterinary professionals leaving the field for various reasons. And I was like, I really don't want that to be me, but what am I going to do? So I started thinking, kind of a combination of things, like, what am I good at? I'm really good at triage. I love triage. You know, I also have this other issue of vet professionals leaving the field. So started to kind of look into that, and I was really interested in telehealth as well at the time. So had thought, you know, maybe I could work for a clinic individually and do some sort of telehealth things for them. And so I was chatting with a friend of mine who at the time was a vet student, and we were kind of texting back and forth, and she happened to be on a rotation at Sean's clinic. And I swear I hadn't, like, it was maybe 2 seconds after I said, I don't know if I'm going to go back to, you know, my previous workplace, I get a text message from Sean in like big capital letters, like, Leilani, what are you doing? I heard you might not go back. And so, you know, he was like, can I call you when work is done? So when he was finished work, he called me, and we had like a 2-hour brainstorming session.
Something ridiculous like that.
Yeah. And we just kind of really, you know, talked it out, and he had some great ideas to bring to the table, not to mention, like, he's got a business background, so really thought about, you know, this is something you could do not only at the clinic level but on a wider scale. And so we really fleshed out the idea there over like a 2-hour brainstorming session, and then we met up for lunch later that week, and we were like, you want to do this? Okay, let's do it. So happened pretty quickly.
Yeah,
so exciting.
Yeah,
so,
it was,
Sean, just to be clear, and I think also for listeners as well too, this is not your first venture in terms of, and I'm going to quote this, even though it is absolutely not a side hustle, in a side hustle proposition as a business within veterinary medicine. So did you, when Leilani called you, think, hey, you know, here's an opportunity to do something different with Leilani from a business perspective, or just going, she's a great individual, I've known her for years, need her connected in somehow? What did that look like from your perspective?
Well, as you know, the success of your business in vet med right now and your practices is based on recruitment. And
half of our conversation on Saturday night.
Exactly. Yeah. And those who work with me know me that I'm very, very heavy on the recruitment side, on the mentorship side. But knowing Leilani and knowing her capabilities, how good of a person she was, her integrity, the moment I knew that she wasn't going back to care, I was like, okay, let's chat. And I knew that I needed leadership within our group, and we were expanding a couple clinics, and that was my initial thought, like let's chat regarding something, right? And it actually, when she brought up the telehealth thing, it was interesting because my wife and I had been looking at some of that stuff, the year previous, and so I was relatively familiar with the different offerings that were out there, but what Leilani was proposing, kind of on an individual clinic level, she kind of pitched, and I said, well, I don't think I'm going to use that in my 4 clinics right now, but I think there's a really scalable business that could completely change this industry. We just have to do a little bit of research and see if there's a true demand for that. So yeah, and so it came, so that's kind of where it came of. It was like a silly Friday night discussion where, we thought it was 7 o'clock and it's 9 o'clock all of a sudden, because you just get those juices flowing, right? And so, yeah, then we took a few days, did some research and asked around, and met up, and we said, I think this is viable. Let's just, how do we get this off the ground? So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's the same for me, like having worked with Sean previously, it just made the decision to, work together, own a business together, which is a huge decision. And as you guys know, can make or break the business, really, depending on the relationship there. So I knew we had a good relationship, but above that is just, for me, working with Sean so closely, I have never, I've never questioned anything he's done, like his integrity. He's always, every decision he makes is, it's just above board. It's always, putting the patient first, putting the staff first. And so that was a really easy no-brainer for me. And yeah, the level of respect that we have for each other as well is really made it I have no question that I made absolutely the right decision.
Definitely, yeah.
Excellent. So then you take that and you go, okay, chatting about a problem, it absolutely exists in veterinary medicine. Opportunity, i.e., hey, I need to take my career in a different direction based on family and transition in life. Same thing for you, Sean, and looking at opportunities and evolution within family. You see this problem. Lots of people see problems. Our last podcast guest, we talked about this. Lots of discussion in veterinary medicine about the negativity of veterinary medicine. Oh, woe is us. Again, I'm going to probably get slapped on that somewhere, but it's true. You guys take that problem and you turn it into a possible solution. Fantastic. Walk us through how AHL has come to be, what it is today in 2022, and what the mission and goal was for what the both of you guys were seeing in practice, because I think it's really important.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously I mentioned before, we just seeing veterinary professionals leaving the industry, and it's for different reasons. Like veterinarians leave for different reasons than vet techs do. Yep. But when we did our research and looked into, why are they leaving, it was kind of cool to see that it actually might be a solution to each other. Like where what vet techs want to do in practice instead of leaving practice is kind of what's going to be the solution to why veterinarians are leaving. So that was really cool to see. And so then from there, that just, that makes a huge impact to me, because like I mentioned, I love veterinary medicine and I don't want to see my colleagues leaving. So that was really a huge catalyst for us, is being able to keep our colleagues in the industry. And we started off, where one of our partners is Mosaic Veterinary Partners. And so we started off with their clinics, just really small, just four veterinary clinics. And I think we had like 15 operators at that time. And it just really snowballed from there. Like it really caught fire pretty quickly. And to the point now we have about like 40 or 50 operators, RVT operators working for us. And we have clinics across 7 provinces, as well as we're in the States now as well. So yeah, things have moved along pretty quickly.
Yeah, and the evolution of it definitely we obviously could have gone about it in a few different ways, and Leilani and I looked at a few different factors early on and said, okay, well, we obviously need some expertise. Like we knew the biggest demand was on the on-call side, so mixed animal practice, and we need to fill that gap with the large animal side. So that's where Mosaic came in. We also, had to look heavily at the regulatory side as well. And so looking at all those factors, say what kind of service can we provide that will resound and help them, but also be financially feasible. How do you price this? And be within regulatory bounds as well. So, and how much money do we put up? And the nice thing is, with all the pre-existing technology, we if you look at how much we put forward, we essentially bootstrapped it, right? We pieced together some technology, we put a little bit of money into it, and we created the protocols, and we looked at a lot of the research on the human side before launching it. And then Mosaic was kind of our guinea pig as we honed in the service and what worked, what didn't work, what are the wait times like, how do we what kind of metrics are we getting from this beta test, and that but then it just started to snowball.
I can say from the other side of the equation, and it's not often on our podcast that I have business partners, and obviously being a partner in Mosaic, we have a financial interest in AHL, and saying that in our introductions. I see the other side, and I go, the hard work that you guys have done to ensure that your clients, being us as practices, are well looked after, and then providing the data to back that up so quickly to see that, as you described perfectly, Leilani, our call volume for after hours triage, drops on an average of 70%, 75%, depending on the month. And we could see that within the first 3 months, where I have veterinarians that say, if it wasn't for AHL, I couldn't stay here anymore. And I know that sounds like a sales pitch, but that's the real. That is the actual real. In a time of a time of COVID, people couldn't get into the practice. What are they doing? They're making phone calls. All of a sudden, AHL was helping us with that, and keeping our vets sane at the same time as providing a very educating, you described this, and I think you described it a little lightly, the protocols in place to ensure that your operators knew what was happening at the clinic to be able to appropriately triage. I've not seen that in our industry yet. And I know that there are other operators and companies that are out there, but for us in Western Canada and now North America, I think that is a huge advantage for any clinic in this day and age. Standardization, quality, backup, and we could keep on going. It's a big deal in this day and age.
Yeah, it's a huge deal for us too, and that's something I had said when we started as well, is that I want to standardize triage, which has never happened in veterinary medicine. I don't mean just on our level in teletriage. I mean triage in general. Being a new grad going into emergency medicine, it was scary having that power in your hands of, I have 25 cases on the board and I have to figure out which one goes where. And I mean, even looking at teletriage is nothing new. It's been around since the dawn of veterinary medicine. You call the veterinarian or the veterinary clinic and figure out if your animal needs to come in. But the difference is, depending on who you talk to on the other line, they might have different clinical experience. And so they're going to ask a different set of questions, which means that they're going to give different advice, which means you're going to get different patient outcomes. And for me, that's what really bugged me about the whole triage side, is that I really want to standardize things so that no matter who you talk to, we have a set of protocols and rules. And so that's where that started. And we've got like over 200 protocols based on presenting complaint, to help our operators, as we call it, a decision support tool rather than a decision-making tool, because of course you still need to include that nursing judgment and that critical thinking along with those protocols. And, studies on the human side show that that makes a huge difference in terms of patient outcome.
Nice.
Yeah. And Jonathan, I just wanted to clarify kind of for myself, but for the listener, when you mentioned the 70 to 75%, Are you meaning that of the X number of call volume that comes in, you can triage what the veterinarian actually gets called out to, like down by that amount?
That's right. Yeah. So we filter on average 75% of the phone calls away from the veterinarian after hours. So instead of them having to take a phone call at 2 a.m. about, a dog who's reverse sneezing, we will take that call and they will not get disturbed unless it's an emergency. And really, veterinarians don't mind coming in for their patients to help with an emergent situation. It's all of those calls that, the owner's worried. I don't blame them for calling in, but all of those can lead to very little sleep. And then they're going into clinic the next day and working these long shifts to try to fit all those patients in. And then again, overnight, they're taking all those phone calls again. So yeah, we filter 75% of the calls away from, or divert them away from the veterinarian.
Yeah. And the ones that they do have to come in for, we're setting them up for success with logistical support. The reporting, reduces their time writing the files. We help arrange timing for when to meet at the clinics. For the large animal folks, when you've got multiple C-sections lined up, we've got basically the map and timing and helping prep. Essentially you're we're an extension of their team after hours, and because on call can be lonely. So
from a safety mechanism as well too, I know that for some of our folks that are on call and they recognize, hey, AHL's on the line with me. They know when they're on the line, they know when they're expected at that farm or when they're expected back at that clinic again. It's been a huge safety factor, and I know that's not the formal, but it comes into that comfort level of having another person, just like you said, to that loneliness as well, Sean. And I'll also add, and again, this is not what I had expected to happen with the service, but what I think is really nice is I've been a part of the morning huddles where you have AHL's reports in terms of what's happened overnight. And some clinics, we share between multiple clinics those reports because clients are spread across multiple clinics. Well, now we have the framework of a standardized appointment that's already occurred that can get into medical records. And because the operators are trained to the way that a medical record needs to be written, that can just go right in, which means we are affording everything that's expected from your association. The doctors can be comfortable taking that the next steps. And holy heck, does that make you feel a lot less anxious at 8:15 in the morning? I can say that personally.
Yeah, for sure. It's it makes a huge difference, and especially for the doctors, after hours, they can just show up and treat, which is what they want to do, right? They have a 5-minute conversation with us. We round the case to them, let them know the pertinent information. And basically I take that 15-minute conversation that I've had with the owner that's all over the place. Like, I adopted him when he was 5 years old from the SPCA, and he likes to eat pickles for dinner. And I condense it into a 2-minute conversation with the veterinarian to say, this is what's going on. This is the pertinent information. They are going to arrive at 12:45 a.m. They are aware of the after hours fees. Would you like a safety check? And then it's, they just get to show up and treat, and they get the report, and they already have the history there.
Yeah, it's great. All is not roses, meaning you have had to struggle and or work with organizations from a regulatory framework standpoint. Again, likely not what you expected, and I don't know. I'm looking forward to this answer, whatever way it looks. Like my assumption is it's not what you expected when you came in and forming the business and getting going off the ground. Tell us a little bit about what that looked like, because there is a regulatory framework we all have to abide by as professionals in this field.
Yeah, sure. So no, and this is it's a great question, because when we first started brainstorming, we had all these great ideas, and you see all the apps out there, you see all the advice and all these new telemedicine companies coming up, right? And trying to make waves. However, the regulatory side is sitting there saying, look, you can't do it this way. What are you going to do about it? And it just becomes this giant mess. So when we kind of created our initial thoughts, we had one of our business expansion ideas for kind of year 2, year 3 was actually a direct to client platform. But we also knew that we had to have some conversations with experts on the regulatory side. So we did that. We contacted regulatory agencies. We had early conversations and said, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. We want to be on side with this. We're making this to improve the veterinary industry and to improve access to veterinary care and to protect the public, not we're not here just to make a buck. So there were some early conversations that went on where we said, you know what, this actually, this side of the business, we have to put on hold. And so we looked and said, how do we create a sustainable business here, and how does that look, and how does that evolve? And so we really focused on that business to business model. And it's actually served us exceedingly well because we're using registered veterinary technologists, we can, between geographic, and we won't go too much into the details, as you know, the regulatory side can be quite, it's so variable between all the different jurisdictions. But because we're utilizing each accredited practice in their regulatory region, as well as registered veterinarians as the supervising agents of our RVTs in those areas, we can provide service to a much larger or to a wider spread. We obviously have to, we obviously can't be everywhere because it depends on where our techs are registered, et cetera, but but it allows us to work with practices in different areas is kind of what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, AHL as a company, we are absolutely committed to working within regulatory bounds. That's been the get-go from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, one of the things that's been an advantage to us as well is just learning what the different regulations are province to province, because they are very variable, how they're going to define what is considered practicing veterinary medicine. And then even under that, what fits under the telehealth umbrella, how they separate telemedicine versus teletriage. So really navigating that and knowing that really well has definitely helped. Obviously, moving into the States, there's 50 different jurisdictions that you have to get to know the regulations for. But I think in general, it's always going to serve you well to want to make sure that you're complying with those regulatory bounds. And I think too, it can be scary working with those regulatory bodies, because I think what a lot of us hear, because you know, we read the magazines and we see some of the consequences of actions of certain veterinary professionals, and the mandate of most of the regulatory bodies is to protect the public. But sometimes what we as veterinary professionals hear is we're trying to protect the public from you, which isn't necessarily what those regulatory bodies are trying to do, but it's what we hear. And so really getting those defenses down and working with the regulatory bodies together to say like, hey, we both have the same mission here, which is to improve veterinary medicine, has you know, really helped us succeed. Yeah,
and I will say at the end of the day, some of the initial conversations were scary, but they've all turned out to be very collaborative. Well, you know, vast majority of folks in the regulatory agencies, they've been in practice, they know the struggles, and when they see that we're trying to do this properly and do this safely, the tone changes very quickly into a very collaborative, positive, how do we make this work? And here's what you need to do on your end to make sure that that you'll be compliant within our jurisdiction.
This is great. Absolutely great. And from that standpoint, do you feel that there is an appetite for change? Because this is structurally, in my view, helping in our current veterinary shortage? From your perspective, from a regulatory, and you guys are the ones that are in knee deep with these regulatory discussions, is there appetite for structural change in the manner you're trying to do right now?
I think so. I think, you know, at the end of the day, those regulatory bodies are really just trying to hold us to a certain standard of veterinary medicine. That's what they're trying to do. And so I think as long as they feel comfortable that you are meeting those standards and at the same time changing things for the better, yeah, absolutely. They've been really open to talking about that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you look at the philosophy behind why those regulations are there and why these bodies are there versus the actual rules and regulations and pieces of legislation in place, there definitely is an outdated portion of it, right? So I think that, yes, there's an appetite for change to update a lot of the regulations and the policies to modern veterinary medicine, especially going through COVID, as we know what is appropriate over virtual means versus what's not appropriate. But it is important that those philosophies are still kept in place, right? So, you know, should we be performing telemedicine out of an accredited facility or veterinary practice entity, depending on the jurisdiction that you want to call it in? I think definitely, but is there a way to set it up so that the bodies can appropriately supervise and inspect and all that? Definitely as well. It's going to take time, as you know, right? And but I would say yes, there's definitely an appetite, but from a veterinarian on the ground practice, I also agree that it can't just be a full out open field either.
With you. And there's some that counter that view, but hey, welcome to the world that we're in. And yeah, there's a reason we have regulatory oversight. Mike, before I jump into the other questions, any perspective on that view and or the setup?
No, nothing to add on the regulatory piece. I guess being like an outsider hearing about this, you know, kind of for the first time, the business to business model, if I'm a client and I dial Bridgeland Vet Clinic after hours, I don't even really know that I've been transported off to Animal Healthlink, or how does that look from like a client interface?
Yeah, that's right. So we would fit into the practice's phone system. So after hours, most of them will just forward over to us. And just like you said, they'll basically hear an inbound message saying you've reached Bridgeland Veterinary Clinic's after hours service. And then they can choose from the phone tree to speak to a registered vet tech that will triage the case for them and then go from there.
So yeah, it is like an extension of them. We don't hide the fact that we're a third-party service under contract by them as well, though. But to the clients, we are their chosen service, and I think that we are your trusted vet clinic's chosen service, and I think that's a big thing in our industry because loyalty and trust in your individual veterinarian, I think, still holds a bigger piece than most people predict with millennials and Gen Zs. Yeah.
Relationship and trust.
Yep.
Switching gears just a little bit, I'm completely going off the pre-recording now, is tell us a little bit about the fun of setting up a business, both from your guys' individual perspectives and then going together and going, hey, we've worked together in a setting and we trust each other, we understand each other's integrity, but tell us a little bit about the fun of setting up a veterinary business in an area that you didn't think you were going to go into and what that's looked like.
Well, yeah, for somebody who wanted to change work-life balance and not work so much, I certainly made an interesting choice. So it's a ton of work. Like I said before, working with somebody that you know and trust and respect, it makes a huge difference. And also just really believing in the vision. So for me, I'm working a lot more than I was before, actually. I have a really supportive spouse though. And I just seeing how much it's impacted our staff of veterinary professionals just keeps me going. It energizes me for sure. So
and sorry to jump in, can we like quantify that? Like, and it doesn't need to be exact, just because I know there's a lot of listeners, the entrepreneurial journey, this is a common thing where, so let's throw a number to that, like best guess hours per week to get a business off the ground.
Oh gosh. Okay. Probably for me, it could be anywhere between 50 to 80 hours per week.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
Those first few weeks.
Sean, you're the CFO, you're the chief veterinary officer.
Yeah.
What do your hours look like? Because I'd love to see what those are combined, because you guys are
and so it depends on
the week and what's going on.
Yeah, because obviously I'm a partner in a group practice as well.
Exactly.
And and I made a commitment to my partners and my group there to work full time. Now I'm with mentorship hours and admin hours, I'm probably doing about 2/3 clinical time, the rest admin mentoring, but that's still there. So the benefit though is that we do as a group, we value vacation, so I get a decent amount of time off, and so I take about half my vacation, and really, well, not half, probably 80%, and vacation and focusing on AHL. So on a week where I'm busy in clinic, I'm probably in clinic, we'll say 40-50 hours a week, and I'm probably working on AHL maybe 20, and then the weeks that I'm off right now, I'm probably doing maybe 40 hours a week on it, playing catch up. And the first 3 weeks, because off in January when we first launched, we were probably putting in 60 to 80 hours each though. Like our meetings wouldn't start till 11:30 p.m. at night sometimes. And straight off there. But yeah, no, the entrepreneurial, we had a lot of conversations early on when we decided to start this, say, this is what our life is going to look like. And, we could put this money in, this many hours, and it's supposed to fail, right? And, but we can give it a shot, and worst case scenario, it fails. And best case scenario, we create an awesome company that does a lot of good. So yeah, we made that commitment. We had some pretty good conversations with our respective spouses and made sure that they were on board, because to be a partner of an entrepreneur is a huge commitment in itself. And we both have 3 kids each, and they're both young. So that was I think the first hurdle. We had to make sure that our families were good with it. But yeah, as you guys know, you have to wear a million hats in that journey. So we had to decide, who was better at the visual side and who was better at creating protocols really quickly. And then setting up. We both had to learn some basic programming, for instance, to link all our workflows together and try to piece together forms and emails and all that kind of stuff, just to get the operators set up, and hiring and firing, and, well, not really firing, but hiring and HR and all that. My brother, thankfully, who's a CA and CFA, offered early on to help with kind of the early bookkeeping. And he's like, when you guys are successful, you can pay me then. But it actually evolved into a CFO role for him. So he's now involved on a bit of a bigger scale. But and so we definitely identified the areas where we knew we didn't have time or the expertise for. we utilize Mosaic where we could as well, and Greg's experience on kind of that on the board of directors and corporate side and business side as well. So it's been very rewarding. It's been challenging, but I think where we're at now, you look back and it's pretty crazy to see where we're at within the time span.
It was all worth it.
Yeah.
And I should say too, that the reason that we've been so successful as entrepreneurs, it is not lost on me that a lot of it is because of our staff. We have an amazing group of RVT operators that are, RVTs are the heart and soul of this company. Like, we could not run without them. And I am not just saying this, this is probably the best group of RVTs I have ever worked with in my entire career. So that has made a huge impact on getting this off the ground as well.
Yeah, they've been nothing but, like, you can rely on them. They're positive. The feedback they give is amazing, and a lot of them come on and taken now more leadership roles in our company and supervision type roles, and will be coming to conferences with us, and so it's been great. I think when we first started, what was the average experience? For 6 months. Of the
RVTs?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're about like 15 years experience on average. Yeah, so they're very experienced. Yeah.
Just unbelievable in a day and age where if you have a 15-year vet tech or technologist in your clinic, you are absolutely lucky, because we know what the rates of attrition are. I love hearing what you're saying about team. Also love hearing effort. And I also loved hearing what you said about making sure that your spouses were on board, the family knew what you were getting into, even though you really don't know what you're getting into. But you can hear that in both of your conversations separately. And then the realization that this is not a part-time gig, 50 to 80 hours a week, that's reality. Sean, partnership, life, family, all outside of it, still making it wrap together whichever way you work. When you look at what the future holds for AHL in whatever form that takes on, what are you guys most excited about? This is a veterinary business, which is still really in its nascency in the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
What continues to get you razzed up on a day-to-day?
Oh gosh, I think in general is helping my colleagues. That is the main driver and what really gets me going. I love that we'd be able to help more veterinary colleagues. I would love to move into other countries as well, besides just Canada and the US. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, taking our service, and right now the main service that we're offering is to that after hours group, but we've started utilizing the Teletriage to improve workflow, efficiency, and quality of work life in other areas such as emergency medicine. So being able to do that in different facets of veterinary medicine and see where they can take this and solve more problems really interests us as a whole. And so we're doing some ongoing research to see where folks think that our services will fit and where it can help. So but yeah, honestly, when we get feedback from clients of our practices, as well as from our practices, for how much their life has changed since implementing the service, it makes it all worthwhile. And same with our RVT operators, what a difference it's made for their careers and for their life. And it really does, it hits you right in the center.
Yeah. Sorry.
No problem. No, I had the opportunity of sitting at dinner actually with an RVT that is an operator with your company, and have never met her before. So we're chatting and going, this is her reason for still being in the industry right now. And without going into the details, she was at a point where she needed to make a change she took accountability for that. This was an opportunity for her, and she is now on that 3-to-1 shift, loves it. It affords her the time elsewhere in her life and still be able to make the dollars she needs for her, support her life. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And actually, when you look at our RVT operators, and we've polled them, so 82% of them were thinking about leaving the veterinary industry before coming on to AHL. 82% of them, that's huge, right? And so to be able to keep our colleagues in vet med is just huge to me. And 88% of them said that it's had a positive impact on their mental health. So that's what keeps me going.
Sure does. Oh, Mike, we have to jump to the impact round. Bringing it together, anything in conclusion.
I can't tie it off. Just one thing that I really enjoyed, Sean, that you said very early when you were talking about your transition from corporate and then over to the veterinary world, you said now we can see it's been very useful. So I think you were referring to like all the skills you developed. And I see that so much with veterinarians. You know, our careers are really just collecting skills all over, and we might not know why they all fit together or how they all fit together. And then different pivots in life happen, and all of a sudden they all come together, and it's like, oh, there we go. That's why I went through, you know, those challenges earlier and developed those skills. Now I get to use them. So that was something that jumped out to me. I really liked.
Perfect.
Lots of respect. I think for two individuals that I already have a lot of respect for. Again, you've taken a problem, you've turned it into a solution that my own company is, you know, absolutely the team there respects, acknowledges, and goes, we would not be in the position we are with, would not be without AHL. So it is fantastic. And I'm really excited to, you know, when I chat with Leilani, and Leilani, 3:30 in the afternoon, are you on a night shift or have you been overnight? Nope, we've had rest. And what's the future look like? There's just always that sense of excitement, but also realism to the challenge of building a new business, which is fantastic to see. With that, we are going to move into the impact round. And with the two of you individuals, we're going to go back and forth today and have some fun with this. Our first question for our short impact round is, are you cats or dog people?
I don't know if you saw my my cup here, but
Is there it's the Sphinx cat. It's the hairless ones that she's all about.
Enough said. I don't know.
I'm both. The right now, technically, I'm a cat person because we don't have a dog. But Lynn and I are in constant debate about which next dog to get. So yeah.
So does that then technically make you a cat person for the time?
Yeah, we
being?
have 2 cats at home. I'm a cat person right now.
Cat people.
Yeah.
Keeping it clean. I think, Mike, we're coming into cat territory again. I think there is more cat people than dog people again.
There might be. We need an official running tally on this one.
We do. Okay, true or false? I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian or a veterinary technologist in the profession since I was a kid.
False.
True.
Leilani, where did you think you were going then?
I didn't know. I was lost. I was in university doing a biochem degree because that's just what I liked, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And it's kind of interesting how, you know, when you get on the right path, the universe just kind of lights up the way. And my dog got hit by a car. We rushed him into an emergency clinic, and that's what kind of started the catalyst. I was distraught, and I'll never forget Dr. Dave Bulin was the doctor at that time, and he came into the room and he put his hand on my shoulder and said, he's going to be okay. And I was like, I want to make people and pets feel this good. And throughout the course of his hospitalization, we had vet techs coming in all the time to give us updates and do treatments. And so I started asking, like, what is this? And so they told me, and they said, you can apply. There's a college an hour away. And it was like you had 1 week left to apply. So I got all of my stuff together, applied, got in. And my first day of college, they introduced your instructors. And guess who was the instructor? Dr. Dave Bulin. One of his last shifts was saving my dog. So
so I didn't know that. So
yes, yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, that's how I got into it.
So cool.
Yeah.
And Dave Lowe comes the odd time out with one of our practices. So next time I see him, I'm gonna have to share. That is fantastic. Man, I love how this world works.
Yeah,
Love it.
it's such a small one.
Yeah.
It really is. This should be fun. How would your friends describe what you do for a living?
Oh gosh.
We have friends after COVID.
I think my friends would they'd say I save animals.
Good answer.
Yeah, I think that they still don't really get the AHL side. They just think I'm a vet with a side hustle. But
Sometimes it's simpler to keep it that way.
that's exactly it. Yeah.
What is your favorite hobby?
Oh gosh, we don't have time for hobbies anymore.
Just
But-
gonna say that. I was like, there's no chance you have time for hobbies.
But when I do have time, some of you may know that I am a zombie fanatic.
Oh yes.
So I love to do zombie cosplay. I went back when we were doing zombie walks. I went on the zombie walks every year. And so yeah, that's my favorite thing. Either watching zombie movies or doing zombie makeup.
Sean?
I think, probably break it into, I'll say individual hobbies right now. I'd probably say golf is probably my favorite. Clubs are right over there just because our new offices have a simulator. So, but the group stuff, I'd probably say right now, with the kids, favorite thing is probably, I've got them into baseball finally. So that's been good.
No, they're going to learn the baseball ways.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. What in this world are you most grateful for?
Oh gosh. I'm grateful for so many things. I am grateful to be a woman in Canada with great family and friends.
I'll be more specific because we just went through it, and I'm grateful that my family and I went through COVID, our recent COVID infection in the household pretty seamlessly, other than a bit of brain fog. So happy, very thankful for that health outcome.
Nice. Yeah, describe that brain fog, and I do not see that kicking in, Sean, today. Nice and clear, and that's important. Health is everything.
Mhm.
Thank you very much for joining today. A long time coming. Was really excited to have the both of you on. I am absolutely excited to see where the trajectory of Animal Healthlink is going for the benefit of the veterinary industry. I think there is a problem here that you have absolutely seen and jumped on in terms of solution, which meets the needs of both veterinary shortage, but then professional retention and everything that wrapped together. So excited to take part, and a lot of respect for the both of you and what you were trying to accomplish here. It's a big deal.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us on, and likewise, we have a lot of respect for you guys and what you guys are doing with the podcast.
Yeah, definitely bring a lot of awareness to these issues, and it's the first step in trying to create solutions, right? So thanks again for having us on.
Yeah, excellent. If there are those that want to reach out, learn more about you, individuals, the company, anything like that, how do they get a hold of you?
Animalhealthlink.ca is our website, so you can find us there, but we're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Yeah.
The normals.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And then individuals, emails, anything else like that? Do you guys have Instagrams that they can search you out on?
Yep. So we have we have Instagram, we have
LinkedIn.
Yeah, info@animalhealthlink.ca gets is our kind of general monitored email if anyone has any general questions. And on our website there's traditional phone calls. We have they could give us a shout or text as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, as
Can you
always,
hear the sirens in the back? Sorry.
no, just on the mini
Okay.
level, but
Okay.
enough to know that they're not coming to you. They're going
Okay.
elsewhere. You can tell. So our conversation this afternoon, it ends with you guys. What message do you want to leave for for the veterinary community?
So I would say, especially right now or in the past couple of years, from the individual clinic level all the way to the industry-wide level, we are in chaos at the moment. And so Animal Healthlink specifically, we're a company created by veterinary professionals to create a more sustainable industry practices. But it's wider than that too. I think I would encourage everybody to talk to their staff and see what they might need, and listen to the answers, and come up with different solutions. And I know that that can be really scary, especially in vet med. We're very scared of change. But something my dad used to always say to me, when I would tell him I was scared of something, or had some sort of fear to do something, as he would say, do it scared. So just because we're afraid doesn't mean that we shouldn't make that change. And so I think right now is a perfect time to be listening to, especially the new grads coming out, and even our staff who are in there right now, to see what they need, and really make this a sustainable industry, because I love it so much and it has so much to offer.
Thank you for listening to the Veterinary Project Podcast. As a recap, on behalf of our hosts, the Veterinary Project Podcast will be releasing new episodes weekly. So be sure to tune in as we bring you more conversations aimed at helping you enjoy a life well lived. If you enjoyed what you heard on the show and you want to stay in the know, please like, love, and or subscribe to the podcast on the listening platform of your choosing, as we're available on all the usual suspects. If you know of others that may benefit from these conversations, we'd love it if you please share the show with them, as this will help us grow our community to reach more and more veterinary professionals. Speaking of which, if you are a veterinary professional and would like to get connected with more like-minded individuals who are joining us on this journey, please send an email to the veterinaryprojectpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll invite you to be a part of our private Facebook group. General feedback, requests for information, or perhaps requests to be a guest on the show can also be sent to the veterinaryprojectpodcast@gmail.com. Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Light, thank you for listening to the show, and we'll catch you again next week for another episode of the Veterinary Project Podcast. Bye for now.